G'day everyone, it is Coach Michelle J. Raymond, your trusted guide for building your brand and your business on LinkedIn. And listeners, this week I have brought a guest on the show. The reason that I brought a guest on this show is because just a few weeks ago, I was a guest on his podcast and we just kept talking forever and ever and ever. Scott Aaron, we got onto the topic of all the red flags that we've seen from our experience on LinkedIn. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing your experience. Welcome to the show.
Grateful to be here. I'll say this. It was my longest podcast episode. Mine are typically bite-sized, either 15-minute solo episode or 35-minute interview episode. Ours was close to an hour. We kept going because the sad thing is there's more red flags than ever on LinkedIn. You and I have been on the platform for probably the same amount of time. And there was a day and an age where there weren't too many red flags, but it just seems like the more that technology continues to advance in social media, there's more and more spam that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And I want to talk about these LinkedIn scams that are going on because they are getting smarter. And if you don't have the wisdom that comes with experience and amazing networks that you and I have, it can really impact your personal brands. I'm going to start with the most obvious one, and I call them cheaters. It just infuriates me. But let's talk about engagement pods.
Do we have enough time for this?
You know, I didn't even prepare a list of questions on this one because I thought there's no way we're going to get to everything, even though I want to. I want you to explain what an engagement pod is to people and how can we spot them?
So an engagement pod, there are two types. Some are free, some are paid. And it's crazy to me that people pay 2, 3, 4, I've heard up to $500 a month to be a part of that. And basically they were formed, and I will preface this by saying LinkedIn does not support LinkedIn engagement pods. They do not support it. They've written articles on it. They're trying to crack down on them. It's when a conglomerate of people come together, 20, 30, 40, upwards of 100 people, and they agree to all post on the same time on certain days and like and comment on each other's stuff, regardless of any relation to each other's industry, any form of relatability to the person's content, to quote unquote beat the LinkedIn algorithm. Now, I will say this. There's 14 LinkedIn algorithms. There's a gentleman by the name of Chris Penn, who, if you guys are not following him on LinkedIn, do it. He studies algorithms, and he just released his mid-year report on the unofficial LinkedIn algorithm, and there's 14 of them now. And he said basically there's no beating the LinkedIn algorithm because there's 14. So this notion of getting people to like and comment, it's cheating the system, number one. Number two, it's what I call forced inorganic engagement. It's not genuine. It's not authentic. It's basically becoming a job. And Michelle, I ended up talking to a colleague the other day, and I said, how much time are you spending on LinkedIn every day? And they said around 5 hours. That was my reaction.
Well, for those that are listening on the audio podcast, my eyes just popped out of my head, if you can't see it. 5 hours. Wow.
I said, what in God's green earth are you doing for 5 hours on LinkedIn? And they said, well, about 3.5 of those are engaging in other people's content. And I said, whoa, pump the brakes on that one. I said, are you by any chance in an engagement pod? And they said, yes. And I said, well, number one, I don't know who gave you that advice, but get out as quick as you can, because the number one priority that every single person should have on LinkedIn is their business reputation. And if people find out that you're participating in one of these things, your reputation is gone. There's no getting it back. Once it's done, it's done. So it brings up this secondary conversation. Well, how can I tell that someone is in an engagement pod, which is a great follow-up question. So I always use benchmarks or KPIs, key performance indicators, to measure whether someone is or is not. So I'll cut to the chase. Gary Vaynerchuk, which many of you are probably familiar with, I use him as my benchmark. And just to let you guys know, he has under 6 million followers on LinkedIn. If you look at his engagement, it is completely compatible with what LinkedIn says you should get. LinkedIn says anywhere between 1% to 3% of your network will engage, sometimes even less than that. And if you look at his content, 6 million followers. Some of his posts have 2,000 likes. Some of his posts have 200 likes. Some of them have under 100 likes, which tells me he's got an organic audience. Now, if you look at some other accounts where someone maybe has 4,000 followers, 5,000 followers, and every single post they put out is straight fire, no matter what it is, straight fire. Like it's 500 likes, 40 comments. And I'm just going to be honest with you. You should have a quote unquote dud post once a week. You should have a post that just doesn't hit. That's normal with social media. But if you look at someone's post and every single thing, I think, Michelle, I shared this with you. I was looking at someone's post and I totally knew they were an engagement pod because it was a poll question. Now, for any of you listening or watching that have ever done a poll question, the main object of a poll is to get people to vote. It's for market research. So this poll had about 40 or 50 votes and 70 comments. And I'm like, well,
warning, warning.
There should be more votes than comments, not the reverse. So the other way that you can spot an engagement pod, if you really kind of dig a little bit deeper and just pull back some of the layers of the onion further, if you see the same people commenting over and over and over it, you see the same 7-8 names, they're an engagement pod. And I will tell you right now, outside looking in, yes, it sounds great to have all that engagement. But I guarantee you, because I've talked to multiple sources, Michelle, it's all vanity, meaning it never turned into any monetary result. No one was booking calls. No one was getting taken to the DMs. No one was getting hired. So now you've created a job for yourself where your responsibility on LinkedIn is to scratch the back of 380,000 other people just because they've scratched yours. And that is my definition of LinkedIn insanity.
It is the world's biggest Ponzi scheme, really. The people that this benefits are the people at the top, the people that are getting your money. Now, I'm going to go back a little minute and just share my view on this. I understand when you're starting on the platform and you haven't built your network or your community and you haven't found your people around you that are interested in your comments and are interested in your content. When you are starting out and you look around and everybody else feels like that they're getting huge numbers because, you know, we immediately go and start comparing ourselves to everybody else. What the attraction is to things like engagement pods, and just so you know, listeners, they don't call them engagement pods. Quite often they'll have fun and fancy names like communities. Of course, I love community. I would want to be a part of a community. I've heard ones called beehives. You know, I love that idea. It's a great marketing name. And the idea of coming together to help and support each other, I've got both hands in the air. That to me is the dream. That is one of my favorite things about LinkedIn. That is when we're actually really aligned. Not that we're paying each other for pretend alignment. That essentially what happens is you are supporting by liking and commenting other people's posts in that pod. And ultimately, you are just showing up to the wrong audience and you are going to go really fast in the wrong direction. And then one day you're going to get down the track 3 weeks, roughly to 3 months, depending how long it takes you to figure out, hang on a minute, what's going on here? You then have to turn around, come all the way back and start again and hope, as you said, that you haven't burned the trust of those people that valued you in the first place, who have now worked out that you're cheating. It's no different to if I turn up to the Tour de France and I'm on my high-speed motorbike and I go flying up the hill while everyone else is pedaling. Yeah, do I really win? Absolutely not. So, engagement pods, I love the idea. And this isn't where you have a small group of friends and you're all supporting each other because maybe you're small business owners. I'm not anti that. We need some help in the beginning. You need that support. I'm really a strong advocate for this and raising these red flags. And follow a friend of mine, Daniel Hall. He is posting about this all the time. He shows you examples of how these things work. And it's amazing, but I don't want people to give up. And you and I are absolutely in alignment for this. And I don't want the whole podcast to become about engagement pods because there's way more other red flags that I want to talk about. So engagement pods, beware, they're against the user agreement. We're just going to all agree that if you listen to this podcast, you are not going to be part of an engagement pod. If you are, you should unfollow this podcast right now because I'm not the right LinkedIn teacher for you. Listeners, here are the cool new tools from Metrical that make managing content so much easier. First up, never lose a content idea again. The post library feature helps with instant scheduling and idea management. Combine this with the Canva and Google Drive integrations and it'll really streamline your processes. But did you know that when Metrical released their 2025 LinkedIn study, they found that LinkedIn polls are the least used format but achieve the highest reach. So the newest addition, the ability to schedule LinkedIn polls directly in their planner, is the absolute winner for me. This only scratches the surface of Metrical's capabilities, but I want you to be able to check it out for yourself. So I've arranged a special offer for listeners. Use code Michelle30 to test any Metrical premium plan free for 30 days. All the details and how to take advantage of this will be in the show notes. I want to talk about something else that you've probably seen on the platform, and that is, can we talk about how cheap it is to buy followers in general, to buy newsletter subscribers on LinkedIn? Can you talk people through that? Because I don't think people understand that you can literally buy 10,000 followers. I think the last time I looked, it was about $350. Like, it's nothing. That temptation is real.
I'll share a couple things with you. So, number one, people may look at my LinkedIn profile and they'll see that I have close to 35,000 followers. But what they don't recognize is I've been doing the same thing every day since 2013. So you're looking at 12 and a half years of success in a glimpse. So it's been steady growth up until this point. So there's a tipping point. That's the first thing I want to say. So don't compare my chapter 12 to your chapter 2. We're all on the same path. Some of us are just a few steps ahead. In regards to the buying of followers, so this trend and this service, and I'm going to call it a service because that's what it is, came about through Instagram. So Instagram fame and Instagram popularity, everything was measured on how many followers do you have? How many followers do you have? So as it came to be, you could buy followers. Now, I will be very open and transparent. I had a business coach back in 2018 that told me if I really wanted to be credible on Instagram, I needed over 10,000 followers. And I had maybe 3,000 or 4,000 at the time. And he said, here's a link, buy this service, and they're going to dump about 7,000 or 8,000 followers right into your account. I'm like, okay. So I did it. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made. Not only did my engagement tank, but the running backwards, as you mentioned, I had to hire another company to undo everything that it had been done, because all of these followers, they were all fake accounts. They're literally bots. Now, as other companies have came about, you can do the same thing on YouTube. You can do the same thing on Facebook. You can do the same thing on TikTok. And unfortunately, you can do the same thing on LinkedIn. So this is where the problem of all this comes into play. Just as Michelle said, it sounds like a great idea to be an engagement pod because you can have all the vanity metrics galore. It sounds great to spend $350 and automatically have 10,000 followers or all these subscribers on your newsletter. It sounds great, but using the same analogy, Michelle, that you just said, the amount of backtracking that you're going to have to do, because here's the thing about LinkedIn. What people don't understand is that you have to so carefully curate the right audience because it's not a numbers game on LinkedIn. I love what you said in Christo's podcast. It's a slow burn. That's exactly what it is. You need to be so methodical with everything that you do. So any connection request that I send, there is a reason for that. I sense some sort of business relatability between myself and that other person. Anyone that subscribes to my newsletter, my newsletter is called LinkedIn Tips and Updates. Someone is going to subscribe to that wants LinkedIn tips and updates. Your follower count will grow the more aligned you are with the content that you create and the presence that you have. Just because someone has a lot of followers doesn't mean they did it A, the right way, or B, they have the right followers, because here's a clear sign of someone that may have bought followers. You see they have a ton of connections, a ton of followers, and then you go and look at their engagement. Well, A, they don't have any because they haven't created content, and B, their engagement is absolute crickets, meaning no one, not even one person, is liking or engaging in their stuff, which means they have bought followers just to give the vanity metric that they're a quote unquote some micro influencer in some industry that they're in. But the real influence comes from providing that value added content to the network of connections that you've built over time, not with the press of a button to hit pay. That's the real measure of success on LinkedIn. It's how you're leaving people better with the thought leadership content that you provide, which is exactly the strategy that you follow. It's the exact strategy that I follow. And we encourage everyone to follow this strategy. If it sounds too good to be true, it most likely is.
Amen. I am sitting here the whole time going, preach, because this is exactly why you and I are having this conversation, so that people understand, like, how do I spot these types of accounts? Number one, they pop up, they're overnight sensations. There is no such thing anymore on LinkedIn as an overnight sensation. If you think that everybody around you happens to be a unicorn and you're the only one that's not, no, they're cheating. That is the only way. They've bought their way, because LinkedIn restricts how many people that you can connect with every week. So I've been maxing out, I think it's around 100 or something. I don't count, but it's not a big number. I remember when I first started being pretty active on LinkedIn about 10 years ago, I used to sit there on a Saturday night, connect, and it didn't have a limit. So
Nope.
The longer that people have been on the platform, the more advantage we had back in the earlier days. So again, if you're just starting now, you're limited to around, let's call it 100. And LinkedIn is saying, it pops up with all of these messages and says, hey, Michelle, do you really want to connect with these people? Like, it actually pushes back as you work your way through those 100 invites and says, hang on a minute, do you really want to connect? Do you know this person? And it's giving you warning signs saying that's not what we're about. And, you know, I'm absolutely the same. And I wish that we didn't get judged on numbers. As much as I agree with you that it shouldn't work out, that the higher the number where they buy these numbers, that life doesn't turn out great for them. I unfortunately disagree with that, because there are some people that are making a ton of money off other people buying their crappy services because they look like they've got these huge numbers, had overnight success, and who doesn't want a shortcut when Michelle and Scott are sitting here going, hey, LinkedIn takes time. It's going to take months, years, build your reputation, build your brand. Or person B, look what I did overnight. You can have this in the next 6 weeks. Like, which one are you going to be drawn to, especially if your business is in trouble? I get why these are so attractive to people. And I understand that for the most part, they will burn people, but there are definitely people profiteering off this. Now, there is one other type of thing that I've seen pop up recently. Maybe you've done some more research into this. I keep getting emails from people asking me, do I want to rent other people's accounts? And I assume that it's like essentially I then control my own pod. So I've got my own fake rented accounts that I've now got commenting on my stuff. Is that how rented accounts work? Because I honestly, they make me so angry. I just hit delete as fast as I can on those emails and resist the urge to write back, you're the scourge of LinkedIn. I hate you. Like, that's what I want to write. But have you come across those? Because that seems to be a relatively new thing for me.
It is. Luckily, I haven't received any of them yet, but that was popularized before LinkedIn. So a lot of the strategies and a lot of the spam tactics originated on Meta. They also originated on YouTube as well. Instagram also became big for this when people would do account takeovers, and a lot of big brands would do this, and a lot of these people picked up on it. And now you're seeing the same thing, unfortunately, happen on LinkedIn. And again, I'm just going to go back to the adage that I said a few minutes ago, that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Michelle, for me, I am so protective of my LinkedIn account for a number of reasons. Number one, I honor and appreciate every single connection I have because it's my due diligence to protect them. So I don't want to give any spammer access to my connections, because if they're spamming me, they're going to spam them. The other thing is, as you mentioned, I really want to be quote unquote the good guy on LinkedIn, like just being very honest, open, and transparent with people, that to build a sustainable and successful business, it's not supposed to take 6 days, 6 weeks, or even 6 months. It may take 6 years. And if you don't have the time, energy, effort, and patience for that, LinkedIn may not be the best fit for you. It really isn't, because anytime you take a shortcut, I believe in shortening the learning curve. Now, shortening the learning curve could be working with someone like you, working with someone like me, anyone else out there. That's shortening the learning curve. You're investing in yourself through someone else to learn something quicker, so you don't have to go through all the patchwork quilting and the failuring forward. You're paying that person who failed forward for you to show you what they need to do. Anything that is taking a shortcut, it means you're trying to build a boat with wood that is rotted. Eventually, as soon as that boat hits the water, it's going to spring a leak and you're going to sink faster than you can ever imagine. So the one thing that I am seeing, so in regards to getting these emails, I personally have not seen the email that you mentioned, but what I do get is I get these emails from my LinkedIn connections, and somehow I ended up on their email listserv. So it's almost like I opted in for something of theirs when I never did. So now you're seeing this uptick in what are called data scrapers, meaning people are using these scraping tools, and not actual scraping for people listening or watching. It's literally a service that you attach to your LinkedIn account that extracts all of the email addresses attached to your account via ConnectionWise, and imports them into an email listserv that you have, like MailChimp or Constant Contact or Kartra or Kajabi. And then you start getting emails from these people and you're wondering, how the heck did that happen? Now, word to the wise, if you end up seeing that, you've done nothing wrong. It's not on you. They basically have invaded your account, stolen your email, and put them into your email listserv. My recommendation, as soon as you get that type of email, you report it as spam. And the reason why that's important is because their spam score will increase on their email listserv, and they could get in trouble, and they could be removed from their email listserv platform, because if they've done it to you, they've probably done it to hundreds, if not thousands of others.
Oh, it makes me so angry. I was sitting there listening. I don't even remember where now, because I switched off and tried to block it out. I was listening to a strategy around growing emails and, that whole email marketing type of thing. And it's why it took me so long to actually get my own email newsletter started, because I don't want to be like this These people were sitting there talking about, so we have our warm up email address, and when that one burns because we've scraped our details from here, there, and everywhere, bombarded people, gone against all the GDPR and all that kind of stuff over in Europe, bombarded people. They did report them, like you said. Then we've got our backup email, which we'll start sending. Then we'll do this. And I was like, how is this something that you think is honestly going to work and build relationships with people? And I've noticed that a lot recently. Now, I don't want to go down that path too much because, we've only got a few minutes left.
Yeah, totally.
But I also want to talk about automation tools. And there are so many of them right now. And I have to say, on the surface, and these are tools, I'm going to call one out, like Taplio is probably one of the most popular ones that are out there. And I don't normally like naming names, but I think it's important that the listeners understand that these tools exist. On the surface, who wouldn't want a tool to do the grunt work that happens on LinkedIn? These tools are super capable. I love them on the outside. But then we're automating relationships. You're putting your account at risk. You're against the user agreement. Like there is red flag after red flag after red flag. And some of these tools, Daniel Hall has done the research, which scared me even more. They then use your account to comment and you don't even know it's happening because you gave them access to your LinkedIn cookie. That scares the bejesus out of me. And that's why I want to talk about this. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. So I'm a rule follower. So one of the first things that I did is read the user agreement on LinkedIn. And the two biggest red flags that gets people kicked off of LinkedIn is using scraping software that exports data into an email listserv, and also any automation that connects in messages for you. You aforementioned this. You're only allowed to connect with 100 people a week right now on LinkedIn. When Michelle and I first got started on LinkedIn, you could send thousands of connections a day. And so there was this game that people played called the Race to 30,000. So it was to see how quickly could you get to 30,000 connections, because in theory, you could probably do it in a month if you sent a ton of connections every single day. And a lot of these softwares would do that. They would send 10,000 connections in one day. So overnight, someone looked like they had a ton of followers and connections. So the thing is this, LinkedIn always claps back. So in regards to the connecting and messaging, they limited the amount of connections to 100 per week because of this reason. And I shared this with Michelle when she was on my podcast, that there were, at the time that we were recording a few weeks ago, there were two highly, highly accredited softwares that were completely blackballed from LinkedIn forever, Seamless.io and Apollo.ai. Now, these were two of the most popular softwares that had presences on LinkedIn that were basically automating processes, scraping data. And when I mean blackballed, LinkedIn just kicked them off. It was like literally the lights were turned off. And you know what? Not only did that obviously affect those two companies, but all of the users that were using that platform, they lost everything. The fact of the matter is that if you can't organically just block out about 15, 20 minutes a day to send some genuine connections, genuine messages, really good content, and you're going to just fall into that trap of hitting that easy button, which one does not exist on LinkedIn, it's not worth your time. Read the user agreement. Michelle, I don't know about you. I get emails every week from people saying, help me. I'm restricted. I'm in LinkedIn jail. I can't get out. And I have to reply, I don't work for them, but if you broke the user agreement, you're not getting it back. So do not play in that sandbox. Do not take the risk, because once you lose it, you never get it back. It's a slow burn, as Michelle always says. Take your time, do your due diligence, build your business like a retirement fund. You have to treat it like a marathon. It's small steps every day that compound over time to create the result that you want.
It absolutely is compounding all the way. Small actions pay off, but you have to show up and do them. No matter how many disclaimers you see on the websites of all of these tools, probably maybe we won't get your account restricted because, we kind of play the game because they know about all the rules that LinkedIn has internally. Ultimately, if it is going to take income away or the integrity of the LinkedIn platform for all its faults, the fact that LinkedIn is a place where we can come and there is a certain level of integrity. And sometimes it's up to us to call it out. So be mindful of the types of people that you're working with. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If that person has a huge amount of followers, especially if they come from a small country and all of a sudden they have hundreds of thousands of followers, and it's the same people commenting every time, immediately as soon as that person posts, and they come from third world countries, because you have to remember this is happening because there are people in third world countries that are sitting in awful conditions doing a lot of this stuff. Not all of it is automated. And that's like a whole other side of this conversation that we need to be mindful of, these farms that are going on out there to make this happen. And so from this perspective, work with people that are showing up, adding to conversations, showing genuine thought leadership, not things that can just be pumped out en masse. And, this is the thing, people. You are going to fall into times on LinkedIn where you wonder if it's all worth it. Do not jump in the lane of trying to shortcut that success. As we've shared today, I am going to wrap this conversation up because I want people to think about who is it that you've been engaging with in your community that perhaps you may need to disconnect with after this conversation. My mom gave me some great advice as a teenager, which I will leave everyone with. If you hang out with garbage, you smell like it. If you hang out with garbage, you smell like it. And the two of us are here to protect your brand on LinkedIn, help you grow it. Now, Scott, I want to make sure that people listen to your podcast as well. What's it called and what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Thank you, Michelle. So my podcast is called Networking and Marketing Made Simple. It is a LinkedIn themed podcast. You can find it on all the major platforms, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere else. Also, if you want to connect with me, obviously give me a follow on LinkedIn, and you can also find more on my website, scottaaron.net.
Love it. Thank you for all of those. And thank you to everyone that joined this podcast. It was recorded LinkedIn Live, which I forgot how much I love doing those. So thank you to everyone that joined us. Until next week. Cheers.
It's me.